The Magic Castle.
The Dark Arts.
I'm Jason Horton.
I'm Rebecca Lieb.
And this is Ghost Town.
Welcome back to our Halloween episode trilogy, The Magic Castle. Last episode, we gave you an introduction of sorts, a history of the castle's roots, origin, and magical landscape, with the help from some of our favorite magicians and Magic Castle performers. Today, we're getting into the nuts and bolts of what makes the Magic Castle even more special, the rules, the strange occurrences, the lore, and even a mysterious death. Today on Ghost Town, The Magic Castle, The Dark Arts. Since its opening, the Magic Castle has maintained an air of exclusivity and glamour. The most popular question people ask about the Magic Castle is, how do you get in? If you're a magician, the audition process can be rigorous. You need to go through the castle's classes and do an audition, or if you're out of town, get recommended by someone in the community.
Because I wasn't local, they did ask for some specific references in which I gave them, and I'm sure they reached out to them. And
once you're in as a magician, you must pay a $2,500 initiation fee and $150 a month to be in good standing. Local non-magicians and big fans can become an associate of the castle and pay $6,000 initiation fee and $225 a month. You'd have to be, again, a big fan. Whoever joins at whatever tier agrees to a very intense code of conduct, including a pledge you must adhere to moving forward. It says, quote, "I consider it a privilege to be a magician member of the Academy of Magical Arts and shall therefore abide by this pledge. I shall always conduct myself in a manner that will enhance the image of the Academy and magicians everywhere. I shall read and understand the Academy House rules and assist in every way possible to maintain the Academy's spirit. I shall respect my fellow magician and help him whenever and however I can. While at the Academy, I shall never impose the performance of magic on anyone, only performing when invited to do so and using professional discretion. When I perform impromptu at the Academy, I shall present only effects which are both well-rehearsed and entertaining. I will not duplicate any effects identified with regularly featured performers at the Academy, nor use another magician's original patter or routine. I shall limit any impromptu performance to no more than 15 minutes. I shall use only material in good taste. I shall never by word or attitude suggest to anyone that I expect some form of payment while performing impromptu. I shall not solicit personal business, nor will I hand out business cards or any other form of advertising unless requested. I shall never reveal magical secrets to non-magicians while at the Academy. And I pledge myself to the advancement of the art of magic." So many of our interviewees reiterated that being a part of the Magic Castle truly is a community bound by this oath, and everyone takes their membership incredibly seriously.
In Los Angeles, it can be very difficult to sort of find your tribe and anchor in because it's all so spread out. I feel like the Magic Castle has been, and it remains, this anchor for me. Moving to Vegas, I know people from that community, and they've been invaluable for my feeling like a sense of home and a sense of being a part of something.
That's Magic Castle performer Lindsay Benner. Overall, being a performer at the castle seems like a grueling but rewarding experience.
In terms of the palace, it's the 8 o'clock and I think 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then 11:30. And the palace these days, they've added a 6:15 show. You have to be there even earlier. So sometimes you can have a 4-night show. The last time I did the palace, we had 4-night shows most of the time. And we had a tradition of having a dirty martini. Our butler would bring our dirty martini right as everyone was gone from the last show. I would have my dirty martini after the night.
I also want to note that I reached out to over 50 active Magic Castle performers, and very few would talk to me or wondered if the Academy of Magical Arts knew about the podcast. This is a testament to the very strict nature of performing there, of being affiliated with the Magic Castle. And part of that is dealing with press. The Magic Castle wants to maintain a certain persona, especially after the lawsuits and allegations that surfaced back in 2020. We talked a little bit about that last episode. So we know how to get in if you're a magician or a local patron of magic. But what if you're not? How do you visit the castle? The first step to getting into the castle as a non-magician is knowing someone who's a member. Members, according to magician and Magic Castle member Keith Salter-Janes and the handbook, gets an allowance of passes each year to invite friends and family inside of the castle for an evening of magic. It's this exclusivity that makes the castle both alluring and a safe space for magicians practicing their craft.
So a big part of why it's so exclusive and why there's the rule of no photography, people can go there and just let loose. Like magicians, you're not supposed to share secrets, but if you're in an exclusive club with other magicians, that's the place you can share them.
That's Magic Castle member Keith Salter-Janes.
And I think that's something that really makes the Magic Castle special, because there's other magic bars and places in the world that anyone can go to, but having it be that it's just a place that magicians only can get into is really special, and that you can only go if you know someone who is an actual magician who got you in. You're getting to peek behind this curtain into the world of magic. And I think if it wasn't exclusive and it was open to everyone, then it would just be like everything else that there is in the world. And then if anybody's there who's a magician, who's not a magician, and it's fun to be in a building where basically everywhere you look, you will see a magician. There's nowhere else you can go like that.
As a note, you can also get into the castle by booking a room at the Magic Castle Hotel, in my own opinion, not so impressive place to stay. What it lacks in ambiance, it makes up for in passes to the castle, generally 2 per room, with dinner reservations being non-negotiable, and dinner will cost you at least $60 a head. Room prices range from $250 to $600, depending on the size of the room and the time of year. Speaking of secrecy, of course, we've talked about the castle's policies and allure, and how they come from a strict set of rules that the castle has maintained since 1963.
And the Magic Castle has a rule that if you're not a member, you can't do magic there. And to be able to do magic, you have to be a magician member. And this also is a good guideline, because if I pull out cards in the Magic Castle, I'm representing the Magic Castle. And they know that I am at a certain skill level that if someone peers over my shoulder and watches it, it's not going to embarrass the Magic Castle. Like, oh, this person's doing a bad trick. They messed up. The goal is that if only members can do magic in the Magic Castle, then anywhere that there's magic happening, the magic will be good. And that's pretty cool. It isn't just anybody doing magic, that it has to be of some caliber, no matter where you are.
Many of these rules that I'll be going over and have already talked about come from our interviewees, but also a 2007 handbook that I got my hands on thanks to our producer. Okay, I digress. Once you've gotten a pass, you have entry to the castle, but how do you actually get in? Okay, a greeter will collect your tickets by the valet at the reception room, the club's main entryway, called the Grand Entrance. And then you must turn your attention to a bookcase on the left-hand side of the room and utter the password to a small carved owl in the bookcase. There's the owl. Open sesame. The bookshelf will then slide open to reveal the interior of the castle. Once you're inside, you'll realize the true impact of the castle's strict dress code. Here's an excerpt about this from the Magic Castle Handbook. Quote, "The Academy Board of Directors would like members and guests to always have the feeling of going out to a very special place when they spend an evening at the Magic Castle. Therefore, the Magic Castle has a strict dress code. The code mandates jacket and business attire for men, evening wear for ladies, i.e. cocktail dresses, high-fashion pantsuits, or elegant evening attire. No casual wear, no jeans or athletic shoes. While ties are the most appropriate for men as business attire, high-fashion banded collars, turtlenecks, mock turtlenecks, and ascot ties are acceptable, and dressy cloth shoes currently in fashion are permitted. There can be no exceptions." It's pretty intense, but for good reason. Everyone's attire does contribute to the experience, as the handbook noted. You can mill around the main areas, watching magicians, or get into one of the lines at the theaters inside. It is truly an evening. If you're lucky, you can sneak a peek into one of the dressing rooms, which often have signatures on the walls from years of magicians leaving their mark, literally. And sometimes you sneak into a dressing room, and that's not the case.
They used to have this wallpaper on the dressing room walls that was put up by the founders. It's this really cool magic wallpaper, right? And it just had all these different legendary magicians and their magic posters, and it was a really cool wallpaper. And all of these different magicians had put their names on it and, done sort of like graffiti on the walls, and it was really a beautiful thing, right? Because you'd go back there and you'd see people's names, and it just felt like you were part of history, And someone at some point decided that the dressing rooms needed fresh paint, and so they came in and they took down that wallpaper. This should have been an obvious, you cannot touch this wallpaper. You're not allowed to touch this wallpaper.
But pre-theater, post-bookshelf is the Grand Saloon, the main bar of the Magic Castle, the hub. Once you enter the Grand Saloon, there is a couple interesting things to note about it. The bar stool, second from the left, near the close-up gallery, slowly sinks when someone is sitting on it. The bartender will show the patron a magic button the patron can press to fix the seat. In the closest men's bathroom, the urinal next to the wash basin plays It's a Small World when you stand in front of it. A nod to the Imagineers that helped make the castle possible? I'm not sure. I actually have no idea. The Professor's Corner, named after the legendary Die Vernon, is located beneath the wandering eyes of the Ancient Mariner painting. This is also in the Grand Saloon area. This area is said to be haunted by the master close-up magician Die Vernon. The master close-up magician Die Vernon. Vernon is foundational to the Magic Castle and is affectionately called the Professor. Here's magic legend Ricky Jay on Die Vernon for American Masters on PBS.
If I had never seen him do magic, he'd be the most remarkable person I ever met. He just had this amazing breadth of knowledge and interest. He was a remarkable observer. And his life ran the span of the century. I mean, this is a fellow who spent time with Damon Runyon and Teddy Roosevelt and Orson Welles and Billy Rose. And he was at the Scopes trial, the famous monkey trial. He got himself a job cutting silhouettes in a nearby town and then would come over every day to go to the trial. Silhouette cutting. I mean, he probably was the greatest silhouette cutter of his day, doing people's portraits. That's how he financed himself for many years. He was a fairly reluctant performer, and so what he really wanted to do, it seemed to me, was to basically sit in a room and think about sleight of hand. And one of the ways that he made money was by cutting silhouettes. And there are other people who I know interested in that art who tell me that they actually believe he probably was the best silhouette cutter of his time. One of the new kinds of ways in which he would approach card magic would be to do something like this. He would give someone a deck of cards, and he would he would tell that person to go into another room and just open the deck for a second and look at a card and remember that, and then bring the deck of cards back to him and hand him the cards. And he would look at them for a few minutes and look at the cards and hand them the card that they had been thinking of. Actually, the whole concept of thinking of cards rather than selecting cards, for getting away from the stock phrase of take a card, any card, to a much more important concept, which was simply to think about cards, was one of the great contributions that he made.
Like so many who came after him, Vernon would perform in this corner, sharing his craft with eager guests.
Die Vernon did for card magic and cups and balls magic what Shakespeare did for poetry. You cannot understate how much Die Vernon gave to the magic community as a grandmaster and a mentor.
That's magician and historian Angela Sanchez. In order to attract new members, Bill Jr., who ran the day-to-day business operations, hired Vernon to become the club's resident magician.
In retiring to Los Angeles, Die Vernon was one of the first members of the Magic Castle and became the castle's first resident magician. Because of that, a lot of young talent wanted to get Magic Castle memberships. That way they could study underneath the professor. And in many ways, this further built out the Magic Castle community and the magician scene here in Los Angeles.
Vernon cut his teeth as a sleight of hand man and gained a reputation when he performed a card trick that stumped Harry Houdini. He performed close-up magic in the castle until his death in 1992. Here's another secret about this area. The marble tabletop can be secretly made to move extremely slowly when a magician is doing their thing, to add to the kind of mindfuckery of this tiny magical nook. Upstairs, a corner of the waiting area for the Parlor of Prestidigitation is also dedicated to Di Vernon, and it's also said he haunts things in that area too. There, you can find 2 photos of Vernon, one taken in 1939 and the other exactly 50 years later, hanging below the oil painting of him performing his various cups and balls illusion. But let's get back to the Grand Saloon. Behind it is one of the castle's most noteworthy ghosts. Ghosts being used loosely. Her name is Irma, and she is the resident ghost piano player who will play any song that you request.
You walk into this kind of room, it almost looks like a study, and it's got this beautiful piano and the chair, and then it's roped off. And Irma talks to you, and you can see pictures of Irma when she was alive, throughout the room or sitting on the piano. But she talks to you via playing the keys on the piano. So, and sometimes, hey, listen, sometimes she gets tired, right? I mean, there's a lot of people requesting a lot of songs, and you're like, Irma, can you play this? And he goes, boop, boop, and she's not in the mood. But generally she is, and she can play almost any song you request. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite songs that I always request from her is the Indiana Jones theme song.
She's been there since the doors opened in 1963. And according to the Magic Castle Handbook, legend has it that Irma was one of 7 sisters who lived in the castle at the turn of the century. Irma's intense dedication to learning piano through a mail-order catalog was matched only by her family's irritation at her continuous practicing. Irma and her piano were banished to the attic, and upon her death in 1932, Irma vowed to return as a permanent ghost performer so she could play her beloved piano for all of eternity. Irma plays requests nightly and at Sunday brunch. Her invisible canary, Katie, sometimes accompanies Irma in her songs and responds very happily when guests put tip money in her cage. Irma lets you know when she's in the room by turning on the spotlights in the wall to the left of the piano. If the lights aren't on, Irma should be back within a few minutes. You can buy Irma a drink, too, if you really want to sweeten the deal.
And now I've never seen this, but the myth is if you buy Irma a glass of milk, they'll set it on the bar and you'll slowly see the milk go down.
Upstairs from the Grand Saloon is the restaurant, and in that, the Houdini seance room, which we will get to in detail in our next episode. But know that it houses Houdini's actual magical relics, including a trunk he'd escaped from and his wand. But nearby, close to the grand staircase, is the mezzanine bar, guarded by fierce wooden griffins. This mahogany bar, built in 1890, is known as the patented bar because of the various parts that could be ordered separately and assembled upon arrival. In fact, much of the castle itself is made from odd free parts, including parts of houses, movie sets, and even a high school basketball court. Secret doors and panels hidden all over the castle lead to the 13 different performance stages, giving it a kind of narrow, maze-like cruise ship feel. But I digress. The mezzanine bar also has another nickname, the Owl Bar, because there's an animatronic owl. I mean, it might have been real at one point, but it is probably stuffed and mechanized, who will nod yes or no if you ask it a question. Here's a promo featuring a magician named Armax, who, oddly enough, I went on a date with back in 2018. It was fine.
Here we are at the Owl Bar. Archimedes is a psychic owl here at the castle. Archimedes, will my shows go well tonight? Great. Archimedes, will I win the lottery tonight? All right, well then the show must go on.
Then there's the William W. Larson Senior Memorial Library, an exclusive part of the castle that nobody who isn't a member can enter. This library is one of the largest working libraries in the world dedicated to magic and its allied arts, and contains more than 6,000 volumes of books, some dating back to the 1700s, and also houses the largest video library of magic-related performances in the world. Highly protective of its inventory, videotapes, DVDs, and books, they cannot be checked out, none of them, but only appreciated from the inside of this library. I poked my head in and got a dirty look, if you're curious about doing a little trespassing. Let's move on to the haunted wine cellar in the Hat and Hare pub, a hotbed for reports of strange happenings and unexplained shadows. The Hat and Hare pub features rabbits from the collection of Jerry Larson, Bill and Milt Larson's mother that we talked about in the last episode, and if you go down there, you'll immediately feel a creepy vibe. So go have a drink, and then make your way to the Pepper's Ghost illusion model, which also feels haunted, but like Irma, isn't quite how it appears. When you press a button, dancing ghosts infiltrate a domestic scene, seemingly out of nowhere. Disney Imagineer Yale Gracie was a friend of the castle and was known for creating many incredible effects at Disneyland, including, but not limited to, being one of the creators of this effect, the Pepper's Ghost effect. Excited, he showed a model to Walt Disney himself, who was so impressed he began plans for another new Disney attraction, the Haunted Mansion. That model, the model that he showed Disney, now lives at the Magic Castle in the wine cellar below the main bar. How it works is slightly complicated, but simply put, as simple as it can be, I guess, footage of moving ghosts is reflected off of a transparent screen at a 45-degree angle. This ghostly moving image appears to have depth and is translucent, appearing to transport these figures into the model's room. It is, I might say, very cool. While I could talk about the Magic Castle for like 4 more episodes, we must move on to 2 incredibly noteworthy and eerie events that happened at the Magic Castle. The history is incomplete without exploring these things, so stay with us, because we'll get into it after this break. While many of the iconic and magical features of the castle can be explained, some are much darker and more mysterious than meet the eye. During the run-up to its annual Halloween gala back in 2011, the Magic Castle announced their theme for the night's shows. According to their promotional materials, quote, "For the last week in October, the Magic Castle will be on fire with the spirit of Halloween." And, unfortunately, they were right. Horrifyingly so. Almost a half hour past midnight on October 31st, 2011, fire crews were sent to the castle to put out a mysterious fire that raged on for over 12 hours and originated in the castle's attic. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, and firefighters were able to save most of the building and its historic memorabilia. Sprinklers slowed the process of the fire but contributed to significant water damage to the castle. LA Fire Captain Jamie Moore says the house's design might have contributed to the fire's spread. Quote, "The fire was compartmentalized in miniature dining rooms that you could imagine could be found in a haunted mansion. It creates the ambiance that the Magic Castle is so famous for, but a fire can spread in hidden spaces and through multiple walls. It's no ordinary house." The Magic Castle closed, again on Halloween, and reopened in February of 2012 after repairs were made. Here are magicians Mark Haslam and Simon Coronel talking about the grand reopening of the castle.
So this is my fifth. It's not quite the same. Yeah, it's definitely the quietest I think I've ever seen it. The castle is the ambience of the castle, and it's half the ambience. It's half open, half closed, and people are walking around enjoying what they see. But I think if it's a guest arriving for the first time, generally haven't seen the castle, they're not getting a full effect of what's happening. That'll change very short. And I think by December the plan was to have it back up and running even better than before. Yeah. But it's still, the castle's open, it's happening, people are house crowds, it's just good. We're still here, we're still alive, come and visit.
As the castle was finally getting back on its feet, another tragedy occurred. On February 24th, 2017, 61-year-old magician and Magic Castle performer Daryl Easton died in the dressing room of the Parlor of Prestidigitation in the downtime between his second and final show. Easton was a skilled rope master who put together a 3-volume DVD set called Daryl's Expert Rope Magic Made Easy, showing off his rope tricks. It was with this skill that Easton died, using a self-made hangman's noose affixed to the rafters of the dressing room.
It was a huge surprise because Daryl was, a legendary magician among magicians. People called him the magician's magician. He came up with great acts, great moves, great patter, great everything, and was always helping younger magicians out. And it's shocking, and it's definitely sad. Also, anytime I'm in that theater, it's also like just thinking about that, like he did this right here, and magic continues. I'm glad they did close the theater down, but almost in his honor, magic continues in a place that he loved it so much, even until the end.
While first everyone thought it to be a suicide, the coroner who performed the autopsy ruled the death as an accidental hanging. According to Lieutenant David Smith, the medical examiner's watch commander for the day, the finding was that the hanging was self-inflicted, though it was not explicitly ruled a suicide. Quote, "Our doctor closed it as an accident," Smith told Reuters. Adding to the mystery of this tragedy, He said that he was not at liberty to furnish further details about the circumstances of Easton's death or to explain the basis of the coroner's ruling. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the magician spent his final days performing at the Magic Castle, a destination, quote, that meant so much to him over the years, not only as a place that brings the magical arts to so many members of the public night after night, but also as the home and heart of a community of magicians who have dedicated their lives to the study and performance of illusion and wonder. The life of a magician does not seem easy, but the passion for the craft, across everybody I've talked to and all of the research that I've done, is truly powerful. Nobody embodies this mentality of community and craft quite like the subject of our next and final episode, Harry Houdini. We'll talk about his life, his legacy, and the notorious room dedicated to him that begs a visit from the afterlife. Next time on The Magic Castle, Houdini's Ghosts.
Angela Sanchez is a magician, magic historian, writer, and cartoonist whose senior thesis, Conjuring the Modern Woman, Women and Their Representation in the Golden Age of Magic, was used heavily in the research of the series. You can find her thesis, writing, show dates, and more at angelamsanchez.com. If you're in or around Chicago, catch Angela presenting a lecture on magicians of color in magic history at the Chicago Magic Lounge on Sunday, January 26th.
Keith Seltzer-Janes is a magician, improviser, teacher, and member of the Magic Castle.
Lindsay Benner is a variety performer who can be seen all over the globe, including Vegas's Super Freako, at the Cosmopolitan Las Vegas, and the Magic Castle. For more about Lindsay, check out her website at lindsaybenner.com or her Instagram at lindsaybenner. Derek Ostavani is an award-winning mentalist and magician. He's toured all over the country, including the Chicago Magic Lounge, and of course, the Magic Castle. To book or reach out to Derek for an appearance, show, or interview, you can go to his website, magicwithderek.com.